Hello, stream. Welcome to the second episode of the Lorecast. And today, we're talking about Shadowlands with our good guests, George,
Hi.
Scott,
Hello.
Tony, and Vince.
Hello.
So, to start off the Lorecast, the first big topic we're going to talk about is the first place we go into in the Shadowlands, the Maw. So, what did you guys think about just being dragged into the abyss of death at the start?
Well, can I just make a point about the way that we enter
Yeah.
the Maw, which I thought was, first of all, incredibly cool, but second of all, like, incredibly dramatic with the events that unfold during that entrance. Because obviously, you have these major lore characters pulled in, against their will and stuff, and then you've got.
Except for Tyrande, though.
Yeah, exactly what I'm getting to. Except for Tyrande, who Nathanos mentions, managed to. No, not Nathanos. Somebody, I think it was Lothamar. It was Varisa Sanguinar, Sanguinar lady. She was basically. She said that Tyrande managed to escape the grip of the people that were trying to pull her into the Maw. But it wasn't really like an escape. It was more of a she literally like messed them up.
Yeah, she fought them
the
off,
whole
didn't she?
like. Yeah, exactly. And she was the only one to do so, which has some interesting implications. But also her entrance and throwing herself into it, which I thought was extremely like important.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, that kind of brings me to the point of just seeing how powerful the warrior of Elune is, and that also Elune in itself, the Elune's power hasn't really seen a gauge, as in we don't really know on what scale Elune's power is. But
Yeah, but that's also because lore-wise, Elune is the least talked about character in the entire WoW history. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I mean. But this is giving me a good gauge of how powerful Elune is, because now one of Elune's warriors is one of the strongest characters in the game.
Yeah.
One
Which
of
is
the
pretty cool.
only people who would charge into the Maw on their own.
Yeah.
Willingly.
After
Yeah.
single-handedly fighting off an attempt to pull them into the Maw, that even Jaina Proudmoore and Anduin Rin, who obviously has extremely strong power, able to push back the jailer long enough for you to go through the Waygate thing,
Yeah.
and they couldn't even fight that, and she can now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with her character in the future.
Yeah.
I'm well
I'm
excited.
quite excited for that.
Well, there is a big hint in the Night Fae campaign on that one. I don't know who else here is Night Fae, but okay, spoilers here. Is that okay? Are we okay with spoiling shit? Because
I mean, spoilers
sure.
are pretty much part of a gig here.
Go on. They're inevitable here.
yeah, in the Night Fae campaign, at one point when you resurrect Ysera, she tells the player, so the one that joins the Night Fae Covenant, that Tyrande actually is supposed to play a role in saving Ardenweald, and you're supposed to go fetch her using Chandris, but basically Tyrande says fuck off. But yeah, that's what she basically says. So you're a bit left to your own devices, but that's already a hint that there's something to come with respect to Tyrande and the Shadowlands and Ysera, and Ardenweald and Ysera.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that is a thing that's canon and out yet, but Kurt mentioned something to me the other day, and I can't remember whether he was speculating or it was something written down somewhere. But obviously Tyrande's jumped into the Maw pretty much not long after thousands of Night Elves died at Teldrassil, who have also been funneled into the Maw.
Yeah.
And obviously she can meet those people as well. They are there now. She's in the place where they now exist, which is the Maw. So if she
that's
wants
also part of the Night Fae campaign. It's she goes into Torghast basically, and she wants to go to the top of Torghast to obviously fuck someone up.
Yeah.
And when she does that, she actually saves about 80 Kaldorei souls, which you then as the player bring to Ardenweald, which is probably a very natural place for let's say Knight of Souls to go I guess.
Yeah. Can I just say as well, I think this is a really good point for us to bring this up, because I know obviously we said spoilers, but it's a good time to do this now versus when the whole like campaign is pretty much out, if somebody hasn't had a chance to do that campaign.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, whereas now when things are heating up but not exactly like in full swing, so it's more speculation based than spoiler based, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like another thing about Tyrande, which is also interesting, is like, because we talked about it just a minute or two ago, is about the power that she has. But like one of the things that is also to be found in I think it's somewhere in Ardenweald, there is actually an old Night Warrior from another realm. Who basically died due to the power of the Night Warrior. So it's like a double-edged sword kind of thing. So I'm guessing that at one point, like, there's like two things that could happen. You know, Elune could intervene and like save Tyrande by pulling the power back, kind of like what she did to Sarah.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Because Tyrande does seem more insane by the day, as in like it's eating her out from the inside of her fucking head, you know?
Just a quick thing about what you just said though, Vince. You know how you said that there was a Night Warrior from another like realm? I was under the impression, unless I'm severely like misunderstanding Elune, but I was under the impression that Elune was an Azerothian like goddess, not like a multi, like not Titan level world traversing.
If you look back to Antorus on the Aeonar fight, there are hints to Elune, especially since you go to a world called Elunaria.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that in Legion, one of the big speculations was that Aeonar and Elune were the same person.
I remember that.
Yeah, which has not been confirmed or anything of the sort, but the fact that in Ardenweald you can find that soul. Who says, I used to be the Night Warrior, and he explains a bit about what they tried to do to contain the power of the Night Warrior, but eventually it apparently killed not their entire race, but a large part of their race. And that also hints at the fact that Elune is probably a multiversal entity. And highly likely, but that's also not confirmed or anything, but highly likely also linked to the Winter Queen. It's very possible that she's linked to the Winter Queen as well.
Well, doesn't I watched a video, I can't remember who it was by, but it was, in fact, I'll talk about it when we get to Ardenweald, actually.
Yeah, back onto the topic of the Morvo. Scott.
I do enjoy... sorry, no, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Scott, have you got anything you want to say about the Moor? You've been a bit quiet.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid that's me focusing in the dungeon more than anything still.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, everything everyone said what I would have said, so it's intriguing, the power gap that gets introduced right at the start. Between the likes of Tyrande and those that we've previously known to be strong.
Yeah, because Jaina definitely was, at least in my eyes, perceived as like one of the stronger beings of Azeroth.
I mean, she could fight off the Horde army and get away easily.
She seemed to be like the most powerful mage. I mean,
save from a Shara.
Not even just like mage, but like one of the more powerful like humans in Azeroth. But then it all kind of gets just flipped around.
Yeah.
As in,
it just shows you how powerful the Jailer's forces actually are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's gonna be pretty interesting to like further into the Shadowlands, because obviously we won't yet really get to so to say deal with the Jailer.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be quite a while for that, I imagine.
Oh, they're gonna want to do a ton of build up for that.
Yeah, exactly. and I'm well excited for seeing like if there's gonna be like a raid in Torghast, for example, or something of the sort.
Or maybe
Or
they
where-
do it as in the Maw as a whole.
Or yeah, exactly. I mean, wherever the jailer sleeps.
I mean, there's still like the majority of the Maw we haven't even explored.
Yeah.
It's not even unlocked yet.
Yeah. Although one thing I found really interesting about our time in the Maw is how we were able to fight off the Maw-Sworn to a decent point before we went through the Waygate. So so there was of course that bit where Anduin somehow managed to contact the light inside of the Maw, where it's meant to be like the darkest place possible. That could be because the rift between life and death is broken, so the light maybe came through that rift to Anduin. But when we escape and the jailer chains up Anduin, I'm not sure if you noticed, but when Anduin's like, "You've failed," the jailer's like, "Oh, I've already got everything I need." So it'd be interesting to see what his plan is with us.
Yeah.
The main speculation I've seen is people thinking that was he like just missing one power in particular, and now if he's got Anduin, he's got a stupidly strong, powerful connection to the light, which might be the one he's missing.
Yeah, if you remember indeed correctly, it's like when we meet Sylvanas when we were going to free Anduin, she quite literally says that they would want to use him, but they will find another if needed.
Yeah.
And furthermore, if you go, is it the Halls of Atonement?
The dungeon in Revendreth with Inaru.
Yeah, indeed. So why would forces that are clearly allied with the jailer want to enslave Inaru? And because that's also light-based. So the speculation is indeed that, if you remember correctly, the Naru, like if you in like, was it in Burning Crusade? It was in the Sunwell Plateau fight where Muru changes from light to dark. So they have these double phases, and there's some, and this is partially my idea, but there's some speculation on the fact that basically the light is not just purely the light; that there is a dark light kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
The
that
void
basically-
side of it.
This whole side of this, what they're going. I think that's going to be a major thing coming up, 100%.
Yeah, indeed, and that will play a major role, and that somehow basically using the light and flipping the light to the dark is the jailer's ticket out of there, basically out of the mall and back to his former position as one of the first ones.
Yeah.
Or theoretically one of the first ones, I guess.
Yeah.
That's also indeed a very interesting point.
Well, moving on from the Maw now, unless anyone has another topic they want to talk about quickly.
I was going on about the jailer, but I don't know if that applies to the Maw then.
Yeah. We can go on about that in a
There's one thing
minute.
about the Maw that interests me, and it links a bit into the Bastion campaign, but
Okay.
it's the fact that when you go into the Maw, we have the Maw-Sworn, which are former Bastions.
Ascended.
Kyrian.
Kyrians.
Yeah.
Then we have Maldraxxus defectors, and basically we have defectors from each realm, and so basically the jailer is supposed to be confined to the Maw, right?
Yeah.
And even before the Arbiter broke, it seems to me, according to like the conversations that you have with Devos and some of the other, let's say, turncoats,
Yeah.
it seems like the jailer was already talking to them before the Arbiter broke. So somehow he has a communication channel inside all of the different realms, even though he's supposed to be confined.
I have a theory on that, and that relates to this book that has been found in the game that I have gone out of my way to find on my character, so I have it on me, that I want to mention, but it's not until we get to Revendreth
Okay.
that
Yeah.
it becomes relevant.
Then that would be
Right.
very
In that case, let's push forward into Bastion, the most heavenly and beautiful
Amazing.
zone, in my opinion.
I do love me Bastion. God, it's amazing.
So of course,
Was
when we
I the only one that when I went into Bastion and did like 3 quests where I was like, this reminds me of the series called The Good Place?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know that, so I'm sorry.
you know that. But yeah, so Bastion, you go into Bastion, and that's where you first really start to experience the problems of the anima drought going on, and you go through the campaign of Bastion and eventually learn that there is a rebellious faction called the Moorsworn, and as you progress through the campaign, more so the Kyrian Covenant campaign, we've recently learned in this week's chapter of the campaign that Devos is the leader of the Moorsworn Kyrian, who are converting everyone, which, I mean, it was pretty obvious from the Afterlives cinematic with her and Uther casting Arthas into the Moor, and also the fact that we had access to Spires of Ascension last week, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you guys think about the Bastion story?
That was, I mean, firstly, I absolutely loved it. I was honestly like, I couldn't sit on my seat or my chair, like watching the cinematics, and then not like watching the cinematics. What I meant is like finally seeing like what actually went into the cinematic. Like now I finally understood what was going on in the cinematic.
Yeah.
It didn't click immediately, but once I was progressed through the Bastion campaign, I honestly, and I think George mentioned this earlier, that it's maybe supposed to make you do this, but I agree with Devos more and more.
Yeah.
Her like vision of like what Bastion should do.
I mean,
the path is flawed and all that.
Yeah. Her whole crusade is to like let people cling onto their memories and stay who they are. I mean, that's what I've gathered at least.
Well, I think that WoW lore specifically is very much teetering on this, like, is good and is bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Obviously using a lot of like really strong angelic imagery, yet having a very like dark undertone to a lot of like the way that the Ascended Kyrian like go about things, really like hammers that home, and that's why I liked the Bastion campaign so much. Is because not just I love Bastion, but also because like the campaign I love that kind of like nuance, like undertones of like, ooh, like, should I really be helping these?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It does really make you question who really is the good people, the ones who are trying to let people stay who they are in the afterlives, or those who are trying to wipe people's memories to make them ascended. But I guess I can see, like, if you think about it, the Kyrian are meant to be the ones who bear souls through the mortal realms to the Shadowlands, so I guess they can't have any form of connection to
That's the whole thing they
mortal
make
souls.
of it. They try and make them lose their memories and things, so that they have no experiences to base any of their own judgment on prematurely before the Arbiter comes in.
No prejudice.
That's the word.
To keep it a fair system.
To keep it and basically make sure everything goes through the Arbiter, and not like what happened with Arthur, where they go, "Oh, I don't like this guy. You can go up in the Moor."
But isn't like, I don't know, because you mentioned that you're agreeing with Devils more and more. I don't agree with either the Kyrian with the Paragon nor with Devils, to be fair. Because neither of them are giving the souls a choice. One is pure purity, so the path, and the other is pure, you are who you are and you stay who you are. Like, wouldn't it be better to leave it up to the soul to decide, okay, I want to be who I am, or no, fuck all of this, I want to forget. I want to start again. So
I mean, what I mean is I agree with Devos more and more, meaning by I disagree with what the Kyrians or the Archon has to say about the matter, as in like the Archon feels like the path is like the only way, obviously, because it's literally her path.
Yeah.
So, but Devos makes a lot of like incredibly good points, and that's what I agree with rather to what the Archon had to say, and especially in the cinematic where she just blew off the fact, like strong evidence in that when Uther had, a broken soul, as in a fucking blade still in his chest when he's a soul.
Yeah, Frostmourne still lingered in his soul.
Yeah, exactly. And, Davos had strong evidence, but Archon didn't even want to review said evidence. She just blew it off and said, fuck off, stay with the path. And, yeah, that's why I'm glad I picked Kyrian, because I'm really looking forward to seeing how this campaign unravels.
Well, just a quick thing about the storyline that obviously unraveled this week as well, if we're going through those. But mainly about Uther. Obviously, like the poster boy for Kyrians before we had the expansion yet. And I noticed something. Well, it was mentioned in a cutscene, or in a quest, sorry, that Uther doesn't know that Devos is allied with the Maw. So
that's something that I actually wanted to bring up here, because with that, how would Uther definitely couldn't know about that anyway, because how do you think he's going to feel because he's surely going to find out at some point, when the person that he trusts most and is allied with at the moment has allied themselves with the power that took over Lordaeron,
exactly.
basically.
And that's what I wanted to talk about, like, by bringing Uther up, is because that is what, when I came away from that quest line and I said to everyone, like, I'm not going to say any spoilers, but that quest line has literally got me so buzzed. Like, it's because of all the implications of it. Is like, I am desperate to see what happens with Uther and which way he goes and what happens and how he feels about it all, and what happens to his faith, because that's going to get called into question big time.
Yeah, exactly, because he like in the what's it called, the
Afterlife,
the cinematic, he said he like told everything else to fuck off. He just said, I serve the light, and that in my opinion, as in, he still probably just serves the light. He just doesn't really know where he is standing currently within the Shadowlands. He the very like foundation of Uther is like just serves the light. That's him. He is like the light.
He's like the ambassador for the light.
Yeah, ambassador, exactly. That's a good word for it.
Ambassador Uther of the light.
Yes.
But also, if they do end up, if these campaigns do end up coming into like the main like narrative for everyone, and not just your campaign story. Speaking about what we said about Anduin and the Maw and stuff, and now they said they will find another. Does Anduin's light not also like have a very similar like, would Uther not fit that bill?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, where they said they'd find another, if Devos is allied with the Jailer, she probably specifically sought out Uther in order to be that other, in case the plan with Anduin failed, as Uther has just as good a connection to the light as Anduin does. If not, stronger.
What also quite confused me, which is kind of switching topics from Anduin but back to Uther, is when in the cinematic he got killed by Arthas, you saw that the soul split in half.
Yeah.
The dark side went one way, and then the light fucked off like somewhere, fuck knows where. But then the, like, quote unquote dark side, or I guess the human side, went into Shadowlands. Frostmourne. God damn it. Sorry. Yeah, Frostmourne. And with Frostmourne being shattered, all the souls all released up into Shadowlands. But what got me wondering is, so now that the Frostmourne got shattered, would that mean that, the light is still flying around somewhere, fuck knows where, and this is like the quote-unquote human side, or because humans by design are flawed.
So
Is this like the flawed version of Uther that we're seeing currently?
Yeah, so part of his soul could still be missing somewhere in the Shadowlands. See what you mean. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone
Maybe,
have any more Bastion topics we want to talk about before we move on to Maldraxxus?
Yeah, one reflection that I made when I was in Bastion, mainly due to the Kyrian vibe, is the link to the Valkyrie basically, and the link to Sylvanas. Because obviously we know that there is a connection between Sylvanas, the jailer, and then the jailer and Devos, and then by extension the rest of the Kyrian. So harking back to, let's say, Sylvanas, her original problem, let's put it like that, which was that she didn't have enough Valkyrie to keep her alive and to keep her people alive.
Oh shit, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So in my mind, I was like, okay, is this Sylvanas' master plan to basically, because it's clear from PFA and from Legion that she doesn't really care about the rest of the Horde and the Alliance. She only cares about the undead, about the Forsaken. Is this her master plan to, like, at some point enslave the entire Kyrian, whether they're Mawsworn or pure or Ascended, and just use them as like an eternal life ticket for all Forsaken? Something like that. I was like, is that what she's trying to do? Because that was her original plan, and is that why she basically bullied Helya? Bullied Helya and bullied I forgot Aegir and so on, just to try and get that connection to that realm, to get access to basically the entire Kyrian resource. So,
I mean, you even see in the, I think it's a story trailer for Shadowlands, where it's revealed that what Sylvanas is trying to do is control the entirety of fate. And that would make sense. If she has access to the Kyrian, then she controls life and death. It's in her hands, under her command. She decides who could be tortured in the Maw. She could literally have the Arbiter's role. And she can also still be the Banshee Queen, leading her Forsaken, giving them the reproductive needs that she was going for back in Silverpine Forest.
You say that, but in the cinematic where Saurfang gets blown the fuck up, she also abandons the Forsaken.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that's also like her scheme, like part of her scheme, but in the cinematic, she just straight up abandons him, and the Forsaken are like, "Yep, all right, you can come on in."
That's where that whole thing was for, because unless she literally plans like, right, I'm done with this version of the Forsaken, I'm gonna have a Forsaken 2.0.
Yeah. Or either
that links back to, I think that point links back to one specific person, Kalia Menethil, because she is a light forged undead basically, and she is leading the Forsaken at the moment. So basically, if that whole point of the light and the dark, if you remember the Naru showing that there's a dark side to the light as well, if that same point can be driven home into Kalia, then basically Sylvanas, through the jailer or through whatever method the jailer is trying to find in order to control the light and maybe use that dark light dichotomy, that would basically offer her control over Kalia as well, and by proxy again control over the Forsaken. But this is just with wild speculation trying to make links, but
this whole thing is pretty much
the links are definitely there, but it's, I mean, I guess up Blizzard on up to up to them on like where they decide to bring it.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
could take it
that's-
anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that's all the points of Bastion covered now. And,
But okay.
well, for now. And, I mean, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, not anything
Okay.
big though. I was thinking, but
Right, so, moving on to Maldraxxus. We go to Maldraxxus after fighting with the Kyrian in Bastion and fighting against the Moorsworn. And we get dumped right into the middle of the Maldraxxus arena, where we fight our way to prove our glory in the eyes of the houses. And we get picked up by Draka and taken to the House of the Chosen, where we meet up with Margrave Crexus, and we find out that there's this whole house war, where after Maldraxxus attacked Bastion at the end of the Bastion campaign, we find out that the other Margraves are going for a new path. And then we also find out that the Primus is missing. And through the Maldraxxus storyline, we unlock the key to the seat of the Primus, unfortunately losing Crexus in the process, with him being overthrown. And we find the Primus's warning, telling us to go seek out the Archon, the Sire, and the Queen in order to try and stop the Jailer from escaping the Moor. So yeah, what did you guys think about Maldraxxus then?
Maldraxxus is probably my favourite of the lot, just because of the characters that are all brought back for it.
Yeah. That being stuff like
You get Draka back, you
Mograine.
get Lady Vash back, and
Lady
you
Vash.
get Alexandros Mograine. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Morgrade was a really nice touch to it, I will admit.
Yeah, the fucking Ashbringer himself. He's like one of the few people to come back out of the Moor. I mean, it is technically because of us, but still, like, when they say no one escapes the Moor, and we managed to bring out Alexandros Mograine from the Moor, you know he's still a powerful character if he survived in the Moor for that long without being completely broken down into a shade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that potentially leads for more storyline between him and Darian.
That is true, since they finally got reunited. Yeah. So,
but isn't there when we rescue Alexandros, is there a moment where Darian and him speak? And if you listen to the conversation all the way to the end, there's something about is it Alexandros that says something to Darian like now or something you're worthy of or in brackets you're worthy of wielding the Ashbringer, and like he somehow seems to hint at the fact that Darian might actually be getting the Ashbringer or something.
yeah.
Or
that
an
could
equivalent.
be.
Or an equivalent of it. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was anymore, but I was like, wait. I remember looking at Darian's model and being like, I don't see the Ashbringer. Where's the Ashbringer?
If you look at Alexandros, didn't he have a copy of the Ashbringer?
Sorrow Bringer or something like that.
Yeah.
It
That
wasn't the Ashbringer. It had a new name, because when you free him, he literally stands up, and if you wait before you run through the portal, he stays and says, hang on, let me grab my weapon. And I swear he goes, Sorrowbringer, or something like that.
It's probably like a Maldraxxian reforge of the weapon.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah. So,
I enjoyed Maldraxxus also just basically because of Draka. Draka's amazing, I think.
yeah.
And the fact that like that they're hinting as well to the fact that that Draka could be the next Primus. That I think would be an interesting development as well, because then she would have to play a role in what could be the fact that, as you mentioned earlier, I don't know who it was, that the rune carver could be the Primus, but that whole thing of needing needing to have the 5 qualities of each of the houses in order to become the Primus.
Yeah.
And since she already has 2 of the 5.
The House of
Like-
Eyes and the House of the Chosen.
hmm So that whole point sounds pretty interesting, because that could also mean that later on in the campaign or in the lore, that she could take one of the seats of basically where the Winter Queen and the Archon stand, and that she could play a key role in defeating the jailer, or at least putting the jailer back in his place.
Yeah. One thing I do want to ask, Scott, I know you are one of the few people I know that are playing Necrolords. Certainly
Yep.
the only one in this call. Unless Vince is? I don't know.
No.
Okay. But yeah. So, Scott, what happens in the Necrolord campaign then? Is there...
So far,
Yeah.
it hasn't done much in the way of storyline. But so far, the only bit the bit that's just happened is you go with you take out a lich who's basically overseeing which house was it? There for the House of Rituals. You take out the lich. I can't remember if it was the Margrave or not that you see at the start, but I want to say it was. He was definitely a high ranking officer if it wasn't. So you take him out.
Yeah.
And then the recent one is you actually go back to the House of Eyes area to recruit some of the other surviving House of Eyes people to
Yeah.
try and prepare to rebuild and get yourself a necropolis. So you recruit I can't remember what it's called. You recruit a pilot, you recruit a mechanic, and it finishes with saying, right, we've got everything we need. Now we just need a necropolis, and it hasn't been unlocked yet.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot more to come still with the Maldraxxus one at
Do
the
you,
moment.
do you think that's the necropolis that's floating over Maldraxxus that you in the Necrolords campaign would take?
Oh,
I'm
Zerkis.
assuming so. I'm assuming that maybe the next part of the campaign that gets unlocked, we break into it somehow and we take it over. I'm guessing that's what's going to happen, which will be fine with me.
Yeah,
Wow.
because generally those necropolises also, let's say, contain a lot of lore, because a lot of the, let's say, important, lore characters are aligned to this whole, let's say, plaguey-like thing. I have had necropolises, so I think that would be probably a good opportunity for Blizzard to develop some more lore around Maldraxxus, I guess.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to Ardenweald, does anyone have any more points about Maldraxxus they want to make?
I had one thing. So you have the Plague Doctor, right? You have
Yeah.
the House of Plagues. Is the House of Plagues?
Yeah.
Yeah, House of Plagues.
That develops this plague that literally can kill anything in Maldraxxus, or supposedly kills anything in Maldraxxus. I was when I saw that and playing through some of the other zones, I was considering what implications that the doctor, I don't remember what the name of the doctor is, but the one that always says, "Oh, welcome back, apprentice."
Yeah.
That he
Play
or-
Deviser Marileth.
Yeah, indeed him. That he could potentially play a big role in terms of, let's say, the resolution of the entire game, because since that plague is capable of at least, or indicating that plague is capable of granting permadeath.
Yeah.
And there are similar things in the other zones.
He's going to be
like-
an extremely strong weapon against any enemies.
Yeah, or a
True.
raid, or a raid boss or something. But
Yeah.
indeed, could that not be, let's say, one of the weapons that they will eventually use against, let's say, not the other houses, the other realms, for example, using that plague against the Kyrian, against the Mossworm. you know, if you remember like the Rat Gates, that whole cinematic whereby
The
they
blight.
just decide, okay, fuck it, we're blighting everything. So maybe like a similar choice could be made, and maybe like since Sylvanas has already made, or was it Sylvanas? Yeah, I would think it was Sylvanas. Has already made such a similar choice. Could it not be that this time she will manipulate things to the point where the Maldraxxian plague will be released into the other zones, neutralizing the other zones and giving her even more control over the whole thing?
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say against that is the fact that that Plague Doctor is the first soulbind that you get as
I didn't know
Maldraxxus.
that.
So he's aligned with us.
Okay, I didn't know that.
However,
But he is completely crazy, so he can very easily either be tricked or he could be playing us. Who knows? Or it could just be stolen. But
I mean, we do
still
know from the
plausible.
storyline that Sylvanas is a master tactician, quote from Lorecast, and so it really wouldn't surprise me if, especially since we know the Nathrezim have an influence in the Shadowlands, that she could probably use them to her advantage in order to manipulate someone like that Plague Doctor geezer. I've forgotten his name already because I'm a muppet.
Yeah, because there are so many elements in Maldraxxus that link to, let's say, Sylvanas's real life, if I have to put it like that, to her pre-Shadowlands life. Since constructs are typically an undead thing, which is are typically an undead thing, so it would either be Lich King or Sylvanas.
Yeah, it all links back to her Forsaken time.
Yeah, indeed. And the plague things, so the blight and all these kinds of things. Perhaps not the chosen parts, or maybe some of the other houses, but there's quite a few things that seem to link back to Sylvanas.
And she already managed to break undead free from the Lich King's control to form the Forsaken. What could she do to Maldraxxus? But anyway, time's pressing on, so unless anyone's got any more major points, I think it's time we move on to Ardenweald. Yep. So, we go to Ardenweald, and yet again, we're confronted with the theme of the Anima Drought. And we've got the message of the Primus, which we need to give to the Winter Queen. However, she simply just does not want to talk to us. So we try and earn our favour. In the process of that, a wild seed appears to become attached to us, as they seem to recognise us. And through going through the campaign, we realise that this wild seed also came from Azeroth, and it was the dragon aspect, Ysera. And going through the storyline, when just before Ysera's finally reborn, finally the Winter Queen appears, and we managed to get our message off to her. And yeah, that was pretty much Ardenweald in a nutshell. And there was one thing which really did interest me, which was when they were talking about Ysera, she said something like, "Why would I want to resurrect my sister's pet?"
Yes. That's super important, and I think this links back into, I think it was Vince said something about Elune.
I think you're going where I was going.
Yeah, and I think that she is, if not her sister, then at least of some relation.
Yeah.
But does that mean that the Winter Queen is the equivalent power, or a slightly lesser power, if she's like younger sister or whatever?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
because like Ysera compared to the Winter Queen, Ysera is like a fucking pet hamster, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, because there's the Titans, right? They're all almighty Titans, you know, they crafted some shit on Azeroth, whatever. No one cares. The first ones, they come so far beyond that. They are so much more powerful than Titans. And it just made me fucking laugh when fucking they said resurrect my pet.
Yeah.
I think that was like that kind of like confirmed to me like the power of the first ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
also made
right.
clear in the Resurrection cinematic,
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
because it takes literally one leaf of the Winter Queen's head
Exactly.
to resurrect Ysera, and she
Yeah.
has like, was it 18 or 19 more or something like that?
Mm.
Yeah.
They're going to be all used on us when we wipe in the raids.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
compared
but-
to Oz, though, Ysera is an extremely powerful being. I mean, she's the aspect which, like,
Freya.
she's the dreamer. And,
Yeah.
like, the Emerald Dream is tied to her. I can't remember exactly her role to the Emerald Dream. I think it's something like the Guardian of it, maybe.
She's the keeper of the Emerald Dream.
Yeah.
She makes sure it functions.
But with such a power as that, and it's like that small in comparison to the Winter Queen, it really gets you wondering how big of a situation we're actually dealing with. I mean, if we think back to the Maw, and when the jailer, literally all he does is raise his arm up, and he's chained four of Azeroth's strongest leaders.
Yeah, that, in my opinion, was really funny. Like, he was just kind of like watching Jaina, fucking Anduin, just like watching them, like seeing what they can do, and then it's like, all right, fuck it, enough games.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, but in that aspect, it's also interesting, and I'll come back to Ardenweald in a second. But it's also interesting that I think it's Jaina, I think at one point, that says that she has the feeling that we're being tested. Or that
Yeah.
we see-
Yeah.
Because that was literally what the jailer was doing there. He was just watching, looking like, what are they gonna do?
He
You know,
wants
like,
to
what can
find
they do?
potential.
That
Yeah.
also, really quick side note, makes sense with what Sylvanas was saying, in that she'll find another. Are we all, the leaders and ourselves included, being
Yeah.
tested here?
Mhm.
Like, is the jailer looking for? Maybe not necessarily a light like we thought we were on about earlier, or just a being with something like that he needs.
Cosmic potential.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with cosmic potential.
Yeah.
If
Maybe
you
coming
think
back
about
to-
this, by the time we get to Revendreth, there's something I want to talk about, but I'll wait until we've gotten to the Revendreth bit first.
Mm.
But yeah, go on,
'Cause
Vince.
I just want to point out one thing. We mentioned it a little earlier, but so the fact that Ysera is the pet of the sister of the Winter Queen, and we know from was it Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King and books and so on, that the dragon aspects received their power from, or at least a portion of the power from the Titans.
Yeah.
So that lends credence to the fact that the Winter Queen's sister is Eonar, but we know that it was, we suspect that it was Elune that it was Elune that rescued Ysera because of the whole moon depiction and stuff like that. So, in that respect, because if Elune is not Eonar, could Eonar also be a plaything of Elune, for example?
Yeah.
Or maybe even
So
something like a
that was
daughter or
so
something.
basically, if you look at the cosmic map, because you know you have the big cosmic map,
Yeah.
Yeah.
could it be that there's another circle, let's say a circle on top of the top circle? So you know you have Arcane, you have Void, you have Light. That's the top circle.
Yeah.
Well, could it be that there's even another circle above that, and that is a Lune?
I was actually
potentially.
thinking that, yeah.
Something else that I've heard, or another theory I've heard, is what if, so we've got the Shadowlands right now, what
Yeah.
if there's an equivalent Lifelands where everything initially starts, and if a Loon is an equivalent to the Winter Queen in that plane of existence?
That could be as well, yeah.
Yeah.
What I was getting at is where there is light, there's dark. A Lune is obviously, you know, dark, moon, whatever. And then there's light. If there's like another circle and there's like a Lune and some other light being, like sun being, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think she's necessarily the dark version though, because
Well,
she is.
No, I mean, as in like
On that point,
not
quickly.
dark vision, not evil, but
Yeah.
as in like she is still good, but
My
she
theory on it
doesn't.
is that omnipotent, as in like I genuinely believe she is like the like the being, like, you know, like we have like in our like religion, so our like god. Like I think Elune is, they're going for that kind of thing because she's represented by Flix, which is darkness and light. Like she's like balanced essentially, isn't she? But I think
Like
she's
Buddha.
Yeah. But I mean, going on to that point though, if you think of the Elune, it's kind of like she's the moon's light. She's the radiance of the moon, and then if she is the sister to the Winter Queen, usually people would associate winter with darkness. So the Winter Queen could be the darkness to Elune. If you get what I'm saying there.
I do.
Right. I see your point, but there's something that just kind of like tells me that Elune is something of a higher being than even like that she's more powerful than the Winter Queen, like
That's
by
valid,
a larger margin even.
Definitely, 100% agree with that.
Because, like Vince said earlier, Elune's talked about so little, and it's such a shame that she's talked about so little. But it might be just because in the lore she's like that unknown of a being. Even if, I mean, that being said, even if she is like a being, she just is like an aspect rather.
Yeah.
Not in the same way that the dragon aspects are like aspects of whatever the hell, but like I think George said omnipotent, as if she just is.
Well, something I want to quickly go into is if we think back to the cosmic map, so you have life, light, disorder, order, death, and the void. So if you were to put some extreme power to each of them, you'd probably say that Elune is probably the extreme power of the life. And then we also know that there is stuff like the Fel, which comes under disorder. So there'd be some leader of disorder which created the Fel, then some leader of order which created the arcane, something which created the light in which people like Ardenweald funnel their power from, something which created the void which allowed the old gods to funnel their power in, and then some power that go like properly rules the Shadowlands, something in the background which we may encounter that is like even greater than the Arbiter or any of the first ones for that matter. But you know, I think that's something we could probably expand on more in a bit of a future topic. Has anyone else got any more topics of Ardenweald before we move on to our final zone?
Fuck him for killing Ursoc.
Agreed. Yep. Can we just get a...
Agree indeed.
Yeah,
You're
can I get a
badass.
fuck you Winter Queen in the chat? Yep, thank you. Big F in the chat for Ursoc.
No, well, the link to Tyrande and the potential role that Tyrande has in saving Ardenweald. Maybe one thing as well with respect to Ardenweald is the link to the World Trees in Azeroth. So if you look at Ardenweald, you clearly see that it's basically one big tree with a couple of smaller trees. That's basically what it comes down to. And the point is that if you look at all of the souls, or most of the souls, basically the model and the way they are before they choose a final form, because in Ardenweald you come in as a blank soul basically.
Yeah.
And you get to choose a form after a while. It's very reminiscent of the Wisp form that Night Elves have.
Yeah.
And if you remember in the was it the fight with
Archimonde.
Archimonde indeed. So the question is, okay, to me, I think the World Tree links to the trees in Ardenweald, or the tree in Ardenweald, that they're like extensions into Azeroth.
Ooh.
And that's basically what the World Tree does, because I read this somewhere and that was very interesting. Ardenweald is actually the only zone that produces its own anima, that doesn't draw anima from the souls that come to it. So it produces its own anima, and apparently, and so the thing that I was thinking then, and I think I heard it somewhere as well, or some theories on it, is that basically Ardenweald directly draws anima from Azeroth, and that Sylvanas, that burned the World Tree, if you remember, that burned Teldrassil, was actually a way to create the drought for Ardenweald, or create a problem for Ardenweald.
And then cause chaos within the Shadowlands so that Sylvanas could enact her plan in order to weaken the enemy realms.
Something like that, yeah. And in that respect, then, coming back to what the role of Tyrande is, so if Ysera says, because remember, Ysera is now in a resurrected form, she's now bound to Ardenweald, so she is one with Ardenweald. So she says Tyrande has a role in saving Ardenweald. So could it be that she could use, or that somehow she could use the power of Elune or the power of the Night Warrior as a funnel to restore Teldrassil, and to bring Teldrassil back and reinvigorate or repair the the anima generating system that Ardenweald has in place? Because basically, if that were the case, that would mean that even if the Arbiter is broken, that Ardenweald could basically be, let's say, the grain fields. Yeah, the self-sustainable and the grain fields for the rest of the Shadowlands.
I see.
And
although,
at least something like that.
On that point, though, if you think maybe each grove could have been related to a world tree. I mean, if you think, I'm fairly certain that both Ursoc and Ysera were from the same world tree. Or same grove, sorry. And
that is possible,
they both died around Shaladdrassil, didn't they? Being the world tree in Val'sharah.
They're both from what's his name called again? The Wild Hunt guy that used to be a Grove Warden.
Yeah.
Yeah, Agalon indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're from his grove, and I think Ysera was the last wild seed to be recovered from his grove. So yeah, it could be quite possible that each grove is linked to the world trees. However, you do also have to think that the Shadowlands doesn't just extend to Azeroth, but I mean, as soon as we enter Bastion, we're straight away asked, do you come from Azeroth or Draenor? I mean, I think everyone's asked that. I know it could be an orc only thing though.
Dre and I are also asked if they come from Argus.
So yeah, it does still take into account every single zone that we've currently been to, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, but there could be world trees in those zones as well.
So. We don't know, for we know, there's world trees on every planet. For we know.
But yeah, so
or an equivalent anyway.
I think that's that with Ardenweald, and now moving on to Revendreth. Sorry.
Yeah, so you're talking to a druid main here, so Ardenweald is, but okay.
Big bit for you, but so we enter Revendreth, and instantly we're kind of straight away taken to the Sire. We see that there's a bit of a civil war going on, and Denathrius is straight away like, you can help us shut this down, Mawwalker. Go ahead. We do our thing, and then we learn that Denathrius isn't all what he seems from who we try to take out. And we eventually find out that he's causing the anima drought. Go through the story, we create the rebellion, we set up our foothold in Sinful, we push forward, try and assault him in the grounds of Nathria, and then Denathrius plays his master card of unleashing all the anima he had stored into the Maw. Now, when we were talking earlier about that light power, or the powers that the jailer was going after. Of course, when Denathrius unleashed that anima into the Maw, the intention was to be able to give the jailer more power to escape. So if you think about it, maybe he's testing all these people who go into the Maw to find how much power they have, to find what their soul is worth, how their anima could be used in order to help him break out of the Maw. But yeah. What do you guys think about all that?
I have my main thing about Revendreth. First of all, it's tied my like tied favorite zone between Revendreth and Bastion. Secondly, the thing that interests me the most is what are Denathrius's intentions? Like, what does he stand to gain from helping the jailer?
Because he was one of the original people that helped imprison him in the Maw.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So I genuinely don't understand. Unless I'm missing something and I'm just being silly, but I genuinely have no idea.
This is where this book I have has made me think of something, but I'll get to that later. What you want to say, go?
Yeah, so what I was going to say, I think it was in either one of the quests around or the actual cinematic itself where Renethal challenges Denathrius and ultimately gets slashed up quite badly. Yeah, completely dominated. I think Denathrius reveals something about that death is coming for not just the soul of Azeroth, but for the whole of the Shadowlands. And he said, I seem to remember him saying that you either stand with the jailer or you will perish. That death will take control, and those who will reign supreme are those who side with the jailer. So what's probably happened is Denathrius has seen the jailer's potential and in fear has gone to side with the jailer, as he thinks he will gain the upper hand with that, especially since the whole Venthyr theme is about pride and going for what they think is best for themselves. So yeah, Denathrius is probably thinking about himself. Yeah, what were you saying, George?
It's just there's something else popped in my head, and I was thinking about this the other day in prep for the lore stream, because it's one of my biggest questions. It's obviously as you play through the main quest and side quest in Revendreth, you learn that as everybody that has become a Venthyr was sent there as like a last-ditch attempt to save their soul before going to the Maw and to prove like a worthiness. But obviously all these people that are going there are sort of semi-worthy of going to the Maw, so they went there as not nice necessarily people, or people that have done something what needs to be judged.
Definitely, that's where the Sin Stone comes into play, right?
So that's what I'm about to say is, obviously every single person that becomes a Venthyr gains a Sin Stone, which obviously holds a lot of power. I am very intrigued as well to find out what Denathrius's name was before he became Denathrius, because I feel like that is going to be somebody that we know.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if his Sin Stone was used against him in the Castle Nathria raid fight. Some mechanic in order to weaken him.
But it'll be the mythic only mechanic or something to keep it hidden.
Yeah, like you go maybe break down some gateway and go into some vault that was hidden in Denathrius's room and be like, oh, Sin Stone, power unleashed. But
right, I'm dying to know, Scott, what the fuck is your book?
Yeah.
But so you actually kind of linked it there with what Denathrius says with death will consume all, and with death being one of the 6 major powers, elements on the cosmic table, whatever you want to call it. Think back as well to one of our friend Ilganoff's messages, where it's like 6 powers or something sat at a table, but only one will consume them all. Now, this book that has been found is called Enemy Infiltration, preface, so it's a beginning bit.
Yeah.
But the subtext on it, a report written by an unknown hand and signatures removed. But it's 8 pages, so I'll go through them a bit. The first one. To our most wondrous and resplendent master, I am pleased to state that after a lengthy study of our rivals, I have completed my observation. Please accept this briefing in advance of my complete report, which will follow forthwith. So I'm already guessing who's this master. I'm guessing it's either Denathrius or potentially the jailer to pass it through. Next page. We anticipate that certain of our targets will be more challenging to topple than others, but each is prone to manipulation in different ways, and our agents have already woven themselves into their very fabric. This is, after all, the solemn duty of which you sired us. As you are fond of saying, once a desire is understood, it can be exploited. Enough prologue, allow me to summarize our finding. Now, what race do we know of that's good at manipulation?
The Nafrezim.
Afrazim.
Bingo. Page 3. In many ways, the Titans will be the easiest to manipulate. Their singular goal is to impose structure upon everything they see, show them a force that opposes their drive for order, and they will be consumed by their urge to eradicate it. Their pantheon, so seemingly united in purpose, is vulnerable to fracturing. Now, this page has come to pass
Yeah.
because
The Burning Legion.
what happened with, the Burning Legion and Sargeras.
I mean, even
Some-
with
which-
touching...
Wait, but
what's it
who?
called? Yeah, go
Wait.
on.
No. I was just thinking, like, kind of thinking out loud. But I'll ask the question now. But I guess we'll talk about it after Scott's finished, because I think that's the best way to go about it. Is after he's
Okay.
finished, we can talk about it all. But who then, if it is a an Elthrazim, like, who is the manipulator in that situation?
There's another which I think, annoyingly, from reading this book again, I think the page that I was most excited for has been bloody removed from the live version, but
Oh, no.
Oh. Sod's
course.
law, that. But yeah.
there. But okay, page 4. So we know the Pantheon one, that's comes past. Page 4. The Void Lords all but welcome us with open arms. They are so preoccupied with their 1,000 truths that they ignore the lies we sow in their very midst. I believe we can leverage their vast reach to position them as a foil against our other rivals. We
Oh.
remain wary though, since they are observant of multiple outcomes, it is conceivable they could anticipate our coming. So what if Death, or if the Nafrazim in this case, have manipulated the Void and the Titans, so us, and anything else, into fit for so long? Why have we thought the Void was the big enemy? Have we all been played
I
here?
heard that as well. Yeah, no, that actually got me really, like, buzzed about, like, so what if all these Void Lords that we've been fighting in the previous expansions, especially, like, I guess 8.3,
The old gods.
yeah,
There's Off, Cthulhu,
Well, they're
Yogg-Saron,
not
the Heart
technically
of Jasaj.
Void Lords, and those are old gods,
Yeah.
so they're not Void Lords.
They're lesser to the Void Lords.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I guess they're, like, Void Lord underlings.
Yeah. They'd
Yeah.
be like a minion to a Void Lord.
Right. But, like, now we're fighting, or not fighting, maybe fighting, hopefully fighting, a, like, much higher being.
Yeah.
And someone has been, like, manipulating this much higher being.
This whole time, yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's still going on.
Exactly.
Page 5. Similar to the Titans, the Naru and their keepers are singular in purpose. Their adherence to a linear path is an obvious shortcoming. They savor nothing more than being proved right. So if they believe they have converted one of us to their precious light, they will trust that agent implicitly. Who's just remembered the Nafrazim Paladin?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that one on the Army of the Light ship, Lefraxian.
Look at that's it. Oh my god.
Oh, fuck me.
This, you can see why I've wanted to hunt this book down.
Jeez.
Oh my god. I'm terrified. I'm terrified for what
Okay.
issues you're bringing, Scott.
And I'm going to make it back. This next page 6 actually might link back to what we said earlier with Ardenweald stuff. Page 6. The adherence to life are the most insidious of opponents, perhaps because their nature is so antithetical to our own. Still, we learn much from observing the link between their plane and Ardenweald, and we have a high confidence that a vulnerability has been identified. Our operative has already gained the trust of her target.
Oh.
Who's the target? What's this
Sylvanas and the
vulnerability?
jailer.
Bingo. At least that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Because, like, I mean, she's already gone and worked the trust of the jailer by shattering the realm between life and death. It's already been an ongoing speculation theme that what Sylvanas has been doing in betraying the Horde and that sort of stuff was all an act in order to gain the jailer's trust. Whether she actually meant it or not is, like, a different matter, really. But she's definitely earned her ranks with the jailer. So, with the control that is now had over the souls, being that the souls of other realms are trapped in the Maw and cannot get to Ardenweald, that's probably what that's referring to, I'm guessing.
Assuming. This is the thing, we don't know how. This is one thing that it doesn't say how long ago this book was written, because obviously it was written before almost Sargeras was done.
Yeah.
We don't actually know some of this.
That is a good
Page
point.
7. And as previously discussed, our position within the plane of disorder is proceeding flawlessly. Consuming fell energy is not a pleasant process, but a necessary one. The deception you have architected will bear fruit in the ages to come.
So, the
So,
Nephrezim are a higher power which have taken the Fel up in order to...
They've somehow managed to learn fell magic as well.
Well, I mean, they had members within the Burning Legion for the longest time.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was our original encounter with the Nephrezim. They were part of the Burning Legion. They were the Dreadlords. It was like...
Yeah.
Balnazar, what are the other one's name?
I can't remember the other
Tichondrius,
two.
and there was another, and like
There was a third.
yeah, and their jobs were to like that. So Sargeras, of course, wanted to have the Scourge invasion to weaken Azeroth for the Legion invasion.
Yeah, weren't they effectively just spy masters? So,
But how do we know they haven't been theoretically double agents or whatever, however many agents the whole time?
But there is also the theory that the jailer or some power has had a great influence on the Helm of Domination.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than a theory, it's like very much so possible. So what's probably happened is that the Nephrezim have worked with this greater power in order to influence Sargeras to make this Scourge invasion, get Kil'jaeden to infuse Ner'zhul's soul into the Domination armor in order to create the whole Lich King and the Scourge invasion in order to bolster the forces of death for this big moment that's going on right now.
Yeah. And now the final page. As ever, we shall serve as your unseen hand. We will poison every host foolish enough to invite us into their midst. I remain as always your faithful servant. Now, the thing I want to phrase with this thing, which almost guarantees that it is Nathrezim, is the actual name for the Nathrezim in their language is Fal Kitun, which apparently translates to the unseen guests.
That would make sense since there was a Dreadlord in Lordaeron for quite a while.
And there's picking up on that. There's some artwork, I think, if I remember correctly, that depicts how the original Venthyr, not the Venthyr that we see today, but the original Venthyr looked, and they look surprisingly a lot like like Nathrezim, basically. So yeah, you might be correct that
And
that indeed the Nef regime have been playing everyone basically.
but the
And then
question
there's
is
a fully
then,
deleted page that I can't remember the full thing, but there's one line on it I remember.
But the big
And what
question is
line
now
was that
then.
exactly?
Yeah, what's the line? What's the line? What's the line?
Oh yeah, if you know that.
If well, you will remember as you used to be the Lord of Dread,
Yeah.
Dread Lord.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Who's
probably
that
maybe
gave.
it's- maybe
that
it's
is
like
who will
an-
know.
Yeah, maybe that's the activation code basically for all of their agents. That as soon as they say that like on Order 66 basically, but
Yeah.
Red Lords.
But that just makes you think, who the hell do they work for then?
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
mean,
the only thing is, it's got to be whoever the Master of Death actually is, because the only power not mentioned in that book as a target is Death. All other the 5 others are mentioned on a page.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
they
that's
could just
interesting.
be the. I mean, the Nef regime could be the supreme, let's say, lords of death, like the Void Lords are for Void and Naru
Yeah.
are for light.
And they've just been playing everyone to make them think they're
Yeah.
weaker.
I mean,
That's very clever if they are. Like, they're very incredible writing.
yeah. Well, does anyone have any other topics of Revendreth and the Venthyr that they want to talk about before we move on?
One thing, and it links a bit into what was already said. So in the cinematic where Nafrius and I keep forgetting names here, but the Prince of the Venthyr,
Renethal.
Renethal, yeah, where they fight. At one point, the Nafrius tells him, "You something like you are playing your role very nicely, or something, but you do not learn from executing your task or whatever it was."
Yeah.
And basically, what is it that the Venthyr do? They take bad souls basically and try and redeem them, or have them accept their sins and their things. So what is there to be learned from people accepting their sins, or people abolishing their sins, or whatever? And I was trying to mull this over a little, and I was thinking, okay, what if the answer to that question is that having sins is actually not a bad thing?
Yeah.
That sins make you stronger, or that sins are a necessary part of who you are. Sort of like how the Ascended just try and take away all of your memories. The Venthyr confront you with your sins and make you accept them. So maybe that's what the conclusion that the Nafris at one point came to, and it's like, yeah, someone or something is imposing a way of doing things on everyone, and imposing a morality, basically a morality system on everyone from specific points of view, but still the same morality system. And why would I accept that morality system? Why don't I have my own morality system? And when I was thinking that, I was like, okay, what if Illunden, and that's why I said, is there maybe not an additional circle? Maybe their ploy in order to get everyone to fight each other is to become strong enough and to dominate the inner circle, so that they can fight the outer circle, which is Illunden. Because maybe she is the one, or she or whoever she belongs to is the one that imposed this morality system on the world as they know it, and they don't accept this.
I see. Well, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah. It's basically I'm trying to like, because a lot of the decisions, that let's say the story building that Blizzard has been making in recent times was around the principle of there is no wrong, there is no right, there is only morally grey. There's only something in the middle. And here you can clearly see in each of the zones that there is a right and there is a wrong. And here, or there's a base right and there's a base wrong. And that now the jailers basically, or all of these counter forces are coming in, that's saying, no, it's your right is our wrong, and our wrong is your right. So we're basically trying to flip it and trying to show that okay, the truth is in the middle. So where does this system come from? Where is the base of our morality system? And that's why I'm thinking is like that they're trying to ask this question, because also if you go to the HP Lovecraft, which things, there also the same question is asked at one point. What is morality? What does morality mean?
Yeah.
And there, I'm thinking that they're just trying to do the same question, but from a different perspective, and more from a, let's say, playable perspective.
There's one more topic I want to talk about in Revendreth, though. I mean, we all know that there's a certain character I really like in the game. And we all saw him in the Afterlife cinematic. And, please, where the fuck is Garrosh? You know, I want to see him.
I think he is still coming. Why? Because during one of the side quests, you go into a crypt.
Yeah.
And you have to, I think it's the accuser that asks you to purify or redeem or whatever the soul. And when the soul basically spawns, it's unnamed soul, but it's a Draenor, it's a Draenor orc model, and it looks suspiciously like Garrosh Hellscream. Not Garrosh. Is that
Grommash?
Grommash Hellscream. It looks a lot like him. Same armor type, same face type. So it's like, did we just like purify or help his dad? And is that going to be like our entrance into Castle Nafria at one point, where Garrosh is gonna be tortured and we're gonna be like, because Garrosh is a workhorse according to the thing, so it would make to the cinematic, so it makes sense that he's in Castle Nafria somehow. And so would that be our in and saying, look, we helped your dad, we can help you as well, or something like those, along those lines? I don't know.
Around the same, like with, I mean, not really the same, but like in Hellfire Citadel, where you save Grom
from killing Felord Zakun, and then he helps you fight off Archimond at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see your point there, because the orcs value honor. So Grommash seeing, Garrosh seeing that you helped Grom, Garrosh would probably be like, I mean, he'd want to be getting revenge on Denafrius, because we see in the Afterlife cinematic that he's being tortured, which makes me think, when we go into Nafria, will Garrosh play a part in the Denafrius fight? Maybe giving us that little bit of an extra edge in, because, I mean, we will be fighting one of the first ones. We're a band of champions, Moorwalkers, whatever the hell we are now, probably still isn't even strong enough to make a decent challenge to a first one. I mean, if we see, going back onto when we were talking about the Winter Queen, we see Ysera as an extremely powerful being, but the Winter Queen sees Ysera as like a little pet. Yeah.
A hamster.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a big hamster, but okay.
Yeah.
Maybe like a little dog or something. I don't know. Little chihuahua. But, I mean, if that's the power scale between us to an aspect to a first one, then, like, our chances alone fighting Denafrius are slim. So there's definitely going to be some form of an edge, whether it be the concept of the Sin Stone, whether it be the other first ones coming to aid us in the fight against Denafrius, whether it be some legendary warriors like Grommash, Garrosh, Varian, people like that going against him. I mean, it's probably unlikely that Varian would be in Revendreth, if we're honest. He was more of a good guy, but
he died before everything broke, so my guess is he probably ended up in either Maldraxxus or Bastion.
Yeah, that would be fitting for him.
I would like to see Varian again. He's
true.
of like the whole lore ever. Like, Ariel was the best.
I want to
Low
save
dash.
that for our final chapter, though.
Okay.
So
Okay.
before I move on to our penultimate chapter, does anyone have anything else they want to talk about Revendreth or the Venthyr? Or is that it?
They're posh cunts.
Yeah.
Hello, chap.
And none of them are sparkly. I'm very disappointed by the fact there are no sparkly Venthyr.
Yeah. And also, why is there no screamo playing in the background of Revendreth? It's perfect
True.
setting for it. Yeah, right. So on to our penultimate chapter. It's basically the Arbiter in the first ones. So in this, we of course, what we know about the Arbiter is that she judges every soul. She sees the lifetime of that soul in an instant before choosing the soul's ultimate fate. Whether the soul goes to the Maw, to Revendreth, to Maldraxxus, to Bastion, to Ardenweald, or to one of the other infinite realms of the Shadowlands, which we haven't heard of yet. But straight away, we see that the Arbiter is out of action because some red energy bonked her on the head and she's in a coma or something. And then there is
I've
also
seen 3 theories of what that red energy was.
Yeah, I know one
Yeah.
of those.
Argus.
I've seen 3.
Yeah.
He's the one I'd be leaning towards the most.
It's
Another
fucking
one I've
Argus.
seen was, and that's the one I think is most likely. Another one I saw was some people saying it'd be Hellier, but I can't see her being powerful enough for that.
no, her power, she's a Titan Keeper. It's more like a world soul is a much greater influence than a Titan Keeper, which is why I'd be more leaning towards Argus than Hellier. And Hellier's magic type doesn't really suit pure red energy. And
Yeah, but I don't think it has anything to do with the level of power that the soul holds. It has to do with the memories and the things that the
Yeah,
soul has
yeah.
seen.
I do agree with that.
I mean,
And
And
Argus
that's where this
being
other.
that like his name is Argusian Maker.
yeah,
In the like files he's called, I think it was like a Titan of Death or something like
Death
that.
Titan, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is literally death. Like the ambassador of death, if you will.
and then also if we go back to these memories and the torment, you know from the Argus fight that he was heavily tormented. So maybe like the energy of all that torment struck the Arbiter when she tried to judge his soul. Which
Yeah, because that was something I saw people moan about when I first read a few of this Argus theories was, but surely if when Argus was killed, he just went back to his plane like Eonar did where we find her. But the difference there is in the final cinematic, Amon Fool says he's going to use the last of Argus's life energy power, whatever it is, to trap Sargeras. So
Yeah.
what if that was what literally killed Argus and so sent him to the Shadowlands?
yeah.
Just
Comment-
to point
comment
out as
that
well,
too. Sorry, go ahead.
that mine's a really quick point. Just to point out as well that literally within the vicinity of Argus just is a Dreadlord.
So true.
Yeah, but anyway, that was what I was gonna say.
No, but my point links into the same thing. You mentioned that Argus is tortured, and guess who does torture best?
Veramathras.
Well,
The
got
the
tortured.
Venthyr. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe you could shed some light on the alternative theories as well. I think that would be interesting as well to just have a quick chat on.
Yeah, what was that third theory then, Scott?
The third one that I read, and I can see kind of, but not 100%, I don't 100% agree with it, was Xavius.
I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, that's the one I struggle the most with
Yeah.
when it comes to power in a way. But then you've also got the thing, if you're going on the memories side, he's lived for a bloody long time. He's got corrupted really early on. every ability he does is bloody that shade of red that we see in hitting Arbiter. And he's been corrupted as hell, especially from the stuff within the Rift of Arl. So, I
Although
think it's the least likely, but...
Xavius's magic isn't the exact same red, though.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's like a red coated with like black, isn't it? Like a red.
That's why I'd more think Argus. But then... So
Argus is the one I think the
Yeah.
most.
But the other thing I want to go on to about this topic is the first ones. So, if you look at all the first ones, like, there's two of them which stand out as being mysterious characters. We know the Archon is Carestia the Firstborn. We know the Jailer is Zoval. Then we know the Sire is Denathrius. But both the Primus and the Winter Queen don't go by any specific name. Why that is, I don't know. I just saw a theory that maybe the Winter Queen is actually a loon and her sister could have been Aenar. I haven't seen much into that theory. I just briefly saw it when I was trying to figure out her name because I thought it might have been mentioned somewhere in the story. But it's only those two that don't have a specific name that we can link them to. I don't know. What do you guys think about all of that?
Potential, I'm just trying to think myself about like who... Is there anything I've seen, at least with the Maldraxxus side, that might hint to something, but I can't think of anything.
I mean, I'm not too sold on the whole idea that the Winter Queen would be a loon, since thus far her powers have solely been to do with life, and I do not see her using any lunar or astral powers so far. But I could see her being somewhat related to Aenar, but more higher in the family, I guess. Like maybe Aenar being a daughter or niece or something like that. But I'm not sold that Aenar would be a sister to the Winter Queen due to how the power gap is looking right now.
No.
Well, the thing about ENR is there's a lot of speculation around ENR as well, because she's the only Titan without golden eyes, which seems to indicate that she's not really a Titan.
Right.
My cat just confirmed this theory for that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe ENR and the Loon are two sides of the same coin, basically. Maybe when she's representing life and light, she's ENR, and when she's representing dark, she's a Loon.
Yeah.
It's also a possibility, I guess.
Maybe. Now,
Yeah, but how? The thing,
That
I
could
don't know how
actually-
would be think of like as strong as we're talking about her now, and now we've been saying like she's such a giant cosmic power, could have been suffering such trouble in Antaurus.
Maybe there was a play. I mean, we've seen
Then a frozen.
the whole play thing as well before. So maybe it's just a way to fool us.
Yeah. The other thing I want to go into is we were talking about the Primus earlier, and his potential link to the Rune Carver, being the fact that the Rune Carver could quite possibly be the Primus, because if I'm fairly certain that in the Primus's pre-recorded message, he said he was already on his way to try and deal with the Jailer.
Yes.
So there could have been some form of confrontation in which the Jailer overpowered the Primus and tortured him in the Rune Carver's prison, causing him to be twisted and stripping him of all his memories, which is why we're slowly recovering the memories of the Rune Carver, and why it's not obvious already as to who it is. And it makes sense, as the Rune Carver's size indicates that he is someone of great power, similar to a first one. I mean, he's literally the same size of all the other 4 first ones, so there has to be some form of a link to that sort of power, as we don't just see any old NPC like that, any old character in the lore. We haven't seen anything of similar stature so far. It's all been like either massive, like a lot bigger, or a lot smaller. Like, there's only 4 other beings in existence of that exact size, which would really fit with the whole theory that the Primus was beaten, was tortured, had his memory stripped by using the maybe the more sworn Kyrian had brought in the methods of the Kyrian in order to completely drain his memory and make him into what he is right now. And so maybe somewhere down the line we will find out that the Runecarver is actually the Primus after recovering all his memories, and he might hold some secret which is crucial to defeating the Jailer, which will ultimately end in a happy ending, which seems to happen in all of these expansions against all inevitable odds. Nah, it's not like the Zoth had the upper hand on us and then we just went bonk.
I mean, yeah, definitely. It's more and more looking like, I don't know if all of you have seen the cinematic in where you unlock spoiler alert, when you unlock 15 legendary memories, yeah.
I saw it.
Cinematic that kind of like just like, I guess, links more and more that the because the Primus was like the best Runecarver that ever existed, and then suddenly now it's the Runecarver that's in the Torghast.
And also the key to the Primus is a rune blade in which you have to go out and get the runes in order to unlock his seat.
Yeah, it does seem incredibly obvious looking at it from like afar, but you know, Blizzard could subvert our expectations as it is.
Yeah,
an alternative, because the thing, well, it links into it a bit, but I had a discussion with some other people on this a little while ago, is that there could be a link between, that there should be a link between the Runecarver and the Jailer, because the Jailer was also a smith of some kind. So they both hold similar professions, so they should know each other, and B, but the way that the Runecarver is represented is very reminiscent of the Man in the Iron Mask, of that story. And that story has a few different versions depending on whether you're looking at the cinematic, at movies, or whether you're just looking at the book. But each of those have something in common, whereby it's either basically that the Man in the Iron Mask is either the brother of or related to the king, basically, to the Mad King, and eventually takes over his position. So in that respect, his identity need not necessarily be the Primus. It could very well be, but it could just be like a twin brother to Zaval, perhaps, or to the Jailer, to Zaval. That he knows has the same level of power as he does, but could overthrow him or should overthrow him at one point, something like that. So that could be that would be an interesting avenue, I think, as well, if they took that avenue.
So, unless anyone has any last thoughts they want to put on this topic of the Arbiter and the First Ones, I think it's time to move on to our final topic. Everyone good for that?
Yep.
I have one more thing to add to the whole loon thing that I kind of just thought of actually. Now this is just purely theory crafting and speculation, but in Legion at least, when Blizzard takes inspiration from stories that have happened in the past or are myths per se, the whole area of
Stormheim, the Nordic zone.
Stormheim, yeah, the Nordic zone. They took like pure inspiration from Nordic mythology.
Yeah.
Now, what's there to say when Vincent, I think someone else also mentioned that a loon could be like the dark and the light. What's there to say that they aren't taking inspiration from the Nordic god Hel?
Yeah.
Gods of the underworld.
I mean, that was the whole point of Helia as well, to be Hel. And if they've brought her back, then maybe they are going for a similar theme to that. Maybe this could be the start of World of Warcraft's version of Ragnarok.
Exactly, that is what I'm purely hoping for, because that would be so cool.
The ultimate destruction of reality and all the realms as we know it. And the starting over. But yeah. But on to our final topic now of what to expect, you know.
We win.
I mean, if they do put in this Ragnarok scenario, then of course we won't win. That will be the end of it.
No, we won't win, but we will survive. That's what Ragnarok is basically about.
Yeah.
And we will like start anew. That's like the whole basis of Ragnarok. Like your home, everything you know gets destroyed.
And everything
but you yourself, you yourself, your buddies, whatever, they survive.
Yeah.
But you basically have to find a new.
It's your chance to restart all of civilization.
Neo.
Yeah. So, what to expect? Earlier we started talking about Varian. Be so cool to have him back in the game. The whole Logosh thing. His tie to that wolf. I'm not sure what his status was. Was he a form of a wild god or something? I don't know.
I don't think he was a full one, he was like a minor thing.
Yeah. But yeah, to have Varian back in the game, there could definitely be some storyline between Anduin and Varian. Maybe if Gen came through the portal to check on progress, then there'd be something between Gen and Varian as well, since, I mean, Gen Greymane is literally just like Varian and Anduin's right-hand man, really. Yeah, in a way. But yeah. Then there's also the stuff we were talking about with Garrosh and Grommash. Then there's all the Sour things, Varrock, Granosh, and Broxigar. There's still, like, they could easily have a high potential to have some influence. Maybe as things progress in Maldraxxus and as the war gets bigger, because I can imagine the three of them all going to Maldraxxus. Something happening there. Or maybe Granosh could have been cast into them more. But they're...
Garrosh be cast into them all.
But, and then there is also... Oh, crap.
See, there's one... While you're thinking, I'll jump in.
Yeah,
There's
go on.
another character that I was expecting to see somewhere in the Revendreth storyline, but didn't, but I can see he's in the raid journal. Kel'Thas.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was wondering where he was, Because I
I've
saw that
just
you-
read his dungeon journal as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
go on.
alright, what? So he's what? What's going on with that?
It's a healing fight. So I'll just read the overview. Kael'thas, so this is now I'll read the whole thing. In the sinister confines cast Nathria, souls are being tortured, not redeemed for their sins, but to amplify them. The prideful Prince Kael'thas has been burdened with the sins of others, and his pain and hatred are channeled to make him a powerful weapon. This has imperiled his soul like no other, and it must be saved, if only to keep him from being unleashed upon the Shadowlands. And it literally says Kael'thas starts in a weakened state and needs assistance to bring him back to full strength. However, Denathrius keeps sending in forces, trying to stop us. We just need to heal him up because when Kael'thas reaches 45 and 90% health, he spawns a shade of himself, which means he can't be healed. So it needs to die. So there's okay, so how? So we're not actually killing him. We're
bringing
saving
back
him.
up
So that makes me
strength.
think, yeah. And then I'm assuming he's then going to be on our side, in which case, what is his role going to be from there?
I mean, we know he kind of had a big thing for a certain Jaina, so maybe he will be our key to getting Jaina out of Torghast,
Ooh.
which would be quite interesting.
Wait, but didn't Arthas also get
Yeah,
because of Uther?
that's the other thing I was wanting to talk about. When Uther eventually learns about Devos's connection to the Maw, maybe we could see some form of storyline where Uther tries to repent for what he's done, and we go into the Maw to bring Arthas back out for judgment, and then maybe Arthas could be the ultimate key in bringing down Sylvanas. As we know, they definitely hated each other.
But that probably would, even if it's just something as simple as Sylvanas just seeing Arthas sends her to a blind rage, and that causes her to make a mistake. But...
Yeah,
Yeah.
which of course.
That honestly, I would love that if that story panned
The
out.
big thing is he's down there, and seeing as we're talking about future things and what we're expecting,
Yeah.
I definitely think that Arthas will play a very big part later on, even though it's such a minor thing right now, which is so shocking that it's such a minor thing, because I know he had a part in the cutscene and stuff, but that's literally it. That's all we've had. As though it was just a throwaway thing, but I don't think so.
You've
I'm
also got to
wondering
bear
if
in mind that we don't know what's going on in the rest of the Maw.
No.
We can barely even see it from where we are. And there could be some, a shielded stronghold by the dark shadows that we see all around. And maybe he could be being kept there or something. Because, I mean, Arthas is a very influential character.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Arthas is by a country mile one of the most favorite characters in all of Warcraft lore. Not even Warcraft lore.
I've got an interesting thing to say then, right? So, and this would be a good thing to ask, everyone, I guess, what their opinion of it would be. But when do you think, if Arthas was judged fairly, instead of being ripped away from that by Uther and Devos, how do you think he would have been judged anyway?
Revendreth or Maldraxxus?
Yeah, Revendreth, I'd say.
I'd say Revendreth or Bastion. So of
I
course,
was about to say
before his corruption of Frostmourne and the Lich King, he was a paladin. That was his
And
nature. It was the way of the light.
It wasn't even him. It was touching Frostmourne and touching the Maw effectively that made him the way that he became.
Yeah, it was literally he became a puppet to the jailer.
Right, I 100% think Bastion.
Yeah.
I think Bastion too, because he did anything and everything to save humanity. Right?
Mm.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what the Bastion, Kyrian stand for, as just doing whatever it takes to make things right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what Kyrian campaign's going. Maybe that's why we're having the whole Uther thing, to get this Arthas redemption arc.
Yeah.
And
I'm almost expecting the Kyrian's storyline arc to take the longest, that will be the one that finishes the expansion off. So it's almost like theoretically, if we're doing it, say in raid tiers or whatever, we're getting the Revendreth one out first. Then I'm guessing next will either be something to do with Maldraxxus character or Ardenweald character, and Bastion will be last. Just because that's got to be something to do with Uther and Arthas.
Yeah. One thing I also want to point out is, so we're talking earlier about how some souls that we turn to our allies might be able to save characters we know are trapped within the moor. For example, when I brought up Kael'thas for bringing back Jaina from Torghast, maybe Garrosh or Grommash, they both have a strong tie to Thrall. Of course, Thrall was like was it Warcraft? One of the Warcraft games for certain was the whole story of Grommash finally breaking the Fell curse across the orcs and freeing them all, and Thrall was like the big supporter in the end of it. So maybe Grommash might want to somehow repay him after Thrall kind of cleared Grommash's head by getting Thrall out of the moor, if Grommash's soul still has strength after being tormented in Revendreth. But there could also be something with Garrosh and Thrall, and maybe over the time Garrosh has been being beaten and tortured, he's kind of realised what he did was wrong for the Horde, and he feels like maybe he does need to make amends. Bit strange for Garrosh's character, I'll give you that, but that might be some form of storyline that could be used to get Thrall out of the moor. But then, equally, it could also be said that if we find Saurfang again, that he might be like, my friend Thrall is in the moor, I better go save him. Because, I mean, if you remember back in Legion, as warriors, the start of our campaign, Saurfang's looking out from Dalaran at the Broken Shore, saying, I got revenge on fallen soldiers. And you go out, headfirst into the Legion. And it wouldn't surprise me, this Saurfang's character, both Varrock and Broxigar, were both the type to go into a portal with no escape, just to save humanity and their allies. Of course, Broxigar, his sacrifice was jumping into Argus in the Well of Eternity and being the only
Sargeras, not
mortal
Argus.
Yeah. No, but like, as in he went into Argus to get to Sargeras, didn't he?
I didn't think. Was he on Argus?
Either way, he went through the Well of Eternity and fought Sargeras, actually inflicting a blow to Sargeras. So there's got to be something to do with that.
It would be cool if they brought Broxigar back.
Yeah. I mean, as strange as it sounds, though, of course, Broxigar had the axe of Cenarius, didn't he? So, if Cenarius is to be resurrected, we all know, 100%, it would be Ardenweald. But maybe, I mean, the axe of Cenarius probably had some form of mystical power, which could mean Broxigar would be brought back to Ardenweald.
Well, I think Broxigar seems like more a fit for Maldraxxus.
Oh yeah, easily. But it's more so as like a get out of jail free card. If Broxigar gets screwed over, he gets like some free tether back to Ardenweald, to where Cenarius should have been, because he might have been one of the wild seeds sacrificed. You never know. Because if, of course, the grove of where Ursok was related to Shaladrisil, Cenarius' passing was around the same time, so he would have been amongst those wild seeds. But yeah. I guess... So, do any of you guys have anything else you want to bring up?
there's one thing that I've been thinking about, but there's not enough, let's say, info, I guess,
Yeah.
to go on right now.
Okay.
But that is the brokers and the unseen. Well, or it's the unseen. I don't know exactly, but so you have the brokers now in Shadowlands, but was it in Crusade or in Wrath of the Lich King? One of the two. You had the guys with the wrap bandages.
The ethereal.
The
Yeah.
ethereals, yeah. And they, if you look at like the technology that the brokers are using, and the
Yeah, I was
technology
thinking this. Yeah, in Orbos the other
Very
day. Very
similar.
similar. Very, very similar.
They probably
Indeed,
come from
so-
the same realm.
Yeah, indeed. And when you were mentioning the book on Revendreth, and you mentioned We the Unseen, one thing that I remembered is that one of the ethereals, or at least I remembered like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but one of the ethereals is also called the Unseen or something like that.
Oh yeah,
And-
now you mentioned that. I think another one you're on about, but I can't remember
Yeah.
where he is.
And then I was thinking, like, could it be that because the brokers are like getting information and stuff from and collecting, basically they're kind of like collectors at the moment, but they're clearly playing a game somewhere,
Yeah.
a bigger game, because Venari is in the mall, whilst no one else is supposed to be there, but Venari is just there because Venari's cool, I guess. So there's a role there that I'm not quite getting, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. But
Yeah.
it sounds like there's something more there going on, and I'm hoping that they develop that somehow. That all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, one of the brokers comes out and is like, "Yeah, the Naturists, sit the fuck down. We're going to take over, and we're going to fix all of this." Something like that.
I mean, we know that there is a threat from the brokers in the other side dungeon where we had, like, that's the only encounter I can think of against a broker at the moment, and that's one of the 3 bosses leading up to our eventual encounter with Mwazala.
There's a second coming up because I've still got the raid journal open, and there's a broker model in there
Ah. But yeah.
as one of the bosses.
One thing I also want to point out quickly, the other side, when we finish the other side, of course, Bonsandi, I mean, during the whole thing, Bonsandi's fighting for the souls of Zandalari like Rastakan, but you see, just before the end, he says something like, "What I'm about to do to Mwazala is not for mortal eyes to see." So, like, I wonder what sorts of powers he's talking about. And if he's making deals with the brokers, maybe he's involved with this whole big scheme to do with potentially the Nephresim, the brokers, or ethereals, in order to gain ultimate control over fate, or whatever they are planning to do.
But it does seem, just judging by the tone of his voice, that all he really gives a crap about is the souls of the Zandalari.
Yeah.
Like, everything else can go fuck itself, but as long as he can, like, check out the Zandalari trolls and Zandalari, sorry, like, that's him done. But Mozella just seems like power hungry for everything. So he's like, where the fuck are the Zandalari? Give me.
Muzala always was, I think, even on his tome back in Zul'Farrak when it used to be there. It even says, talking about him there, that he's basically a mad lower.
Yeah.
It was cool though to see him confirm that he's the one that took Odin's eye and gave Odin the sight into the Shadowlands. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see if there's any ties between Odin's Skyhold and the Halls of Valor, because of course that is part of the Shadowlands. That is one of the infinite realms that are there. But
Yep.
I wonder if we will be going back there at some point in order to. Maybe we'll go if Helya proves to be a massive threat. We'll be going back to Odin and be like, she's back.
Hey, remember your old friend?
Yeah. Your jailer, yeah? Well, she's teamed up with our jailer, and we kind of need to stop these jailers. And then Sargeras pops along and is like, oh, you know my jailer, Illidan? No, I'm joking. That would nothing. But it would be cool to see something back to the Titan. I mean, we know the Titans are all dead, and in that fight, it was the Titan souls that aided us in the end. And, I mean, we don't know the exact fate between Illidan and Sargeras. I mean, you could say that when we left that area, it all exploded, and bye-bye Argus, bye-bye everything over at that side, but I think that was more so just a rift closing behind us all, as we were on the Vindicar.
Yeah, I don't think that was an explosion. I think it was like he said, either like a portal, a gateway, or something. Something just sealed rather than broke.
Yeah, I mean, we did have the Sargerite keystone in order to open that, and that was probably just it closing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, a lot of potential avenues to they could utilize,
and especially since if Tyrande will be coming back, Sargeras knows a lot more than we do. I mean, he formed the Burning Legion because he discovered something that the Titans were unaware of, I think, and that was more to do with the Void Lords corrupting everything. So,
but then throwing that back at you, Cal, what if he didn't actually discover Void Lords corrupting planets, and that was going back to the book? It was Nathrazim that made him think he saw that.
That is a good point. But
I've only just thought of that.
Yeah.
That doesn't explain why all gods are actually like on the planet, though.
But that's just
that's the aspects.
The reason that there are old gods on Azeroth is because that's the way the Void Lords take control over planets.
Yeah.
They seed.
Yeah, but if you say, if like Scott was saying, like if they were just like trying to convince Sargeras that the Void Lords were taking over planets when they weren't, then why would like all gods be on planets? Because they wouldn't actually be taking over them. It'd just be what the Nathrazim were trying to tell Sargeras was happening. So I think that they do exist and they are a threat. I just don't think that the main thing that people, that Azeroth has to be concerned about.
Yeah.
The Nathrazim or the...
No, as in the Void Lords. I think that they are a threat. I just don't think they're the big one. It's obviously something death related according to Scott's book. Well, I know it's not Scott's book.
Yeah, I wrote it, it's fine.
And it turns out the whole time that Scott's been manipulating us all. Scott's just the higher power.
Yeah, do you not know I'm the main person that gives Blizzard their lore?
So that's why you know it so well.
That's where you got that book from, okay.
That's how he knows the deleted line.
Yeah.
Right. Does anyone have any more topics to talk about? No?
Many more, but not. Given the time, not now.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure to have you guys along for the second episode of the Lorecast. Had some great discussions tonight. I've really enjoyed myself, and I hope you guys have too.
Yeah, definitely. Likewise.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming along. Thanks to everyone who's came here and watched the Lorecast. I will be uploading it to YouTube. Hopefully I'll be able to start the process of uploading the VODs as soon as I end the stream, and I will be restarting stream to play just a little bit of WoW before I completely call it for the night. So come back in like 2 minutes when I restart the stream, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming in all, and see ya later.
See ya.
Bye.